The year 1914 dawned like any other, yet beneath the surface of polite society tensions simmered. A web of alliances entangled the great powers of Europe. Like a powder keg awaiting a spark, the continent held its breath. Then, on June 28th, the unthinkable happened. Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, was assassinated in Sarajevo. Austria-Hungary, fueled by grief and rage, blamed Serbia and declared war. The fragile peace shattered. Within weeks, the dominoes of alliances fell. Germany, bound to Austria-Hungary, declared war on Russia and France. Great Britain, obligated to defend Belgium's neutrality, declared war on Germany. The world watched in disbelief as Europe plunged into the abyss. What began as a localized conflict exploded into a global conflagration. Millions of young men, blinded by patriotic fervor, marched off to war. They believed it would be a short and glorious adventure. They were tragically mistaken. The world was at war, a war unlike any before it, a war that would reshape the very fabric of human history. The Western Front, a 400-mile scar across the heart of Europe. From the North Sea to the Swiss border, trenches snaked across the landscape. A labyrinth of mud, barbed wire and death. Here millions of men faced each other in a deadly stalemate. The Battle of the Somme, July to November 1916. A microcosm of the war's brutal futility. On the first day alone, the British suffered nearly 60,000 casualties. For months, the battle raged. Each yard of mud gained came at an unimaginable cost. The Somme became a synonym for slaughter. Verdun, 1916, another name etched in blood. For 10 grueling months, French and German forces clashed in a battle of attrition. Shells rained down, transforming the landscape into a lunar wasteland. Verdun became a symbol of French resilience, a testament to their determination to defend their homeland at any cost. The Western Front devoured men and hope in equal measure. It was a war of attrition, a grinding, relentless test of endurance. And still it went on, year after bloody year. While the Western Front raged, another theatre of war unfolded in the Dardanelles, the Gallipoli campaign, a bold but ill-fated attempt to knock the Ottoman Empire out of the war. British, French, Australian and New Zealand troops landed on the Gallipoli Peninsula in April 1915. They were met with fierce resistance from the Ottoman defenders. The rugged terrain and tenacious enemy made every advance a struggle. The beaches of Gallipoli became killing fields. The campaign dragged on for months, a costly stalemate. Finally, in December 1915, the Allies began their evacuation. The Gallipoli campaign ended in failure, a bitter defeat that left deep scars on all sides. It was a particularly painful blow for Australia and New Zealand, who suffered heavy casualties in this distant land. The Gallipoli campaign, though a military failure, forged a powerful legend. It became a symbol of courage and sacrifice, particularly for the Anzac troops. Their story, forever etched in the memory of their nations, served as a stark reminder of the war's global reach. As the war raged on, its effects rippled far beyond the battlefields. The great empires of Europe, weakened by the relentless bloodshed, began to crumble. The Austro-Hungarian Empire, a patchwork of ethnicities and languages, strained under the pressure. The Ottoman Empire, once a formidable power, teetered on the brink of collapse. The Russian Empire, plagued by internal strife and military defeats, faced its own demons. In 1917, the Bolsheviks, led by Vladimir Lenin, seized power. Russia, consumed by revolution, withdrew from the war. The United States, initially neutral, watched the conflict with growing concern. The sinking of the Lusitania in 1915, a passenger liner torpedoed by a German U-boat, outraged American public opinion. In 1917, driven by German aggression and the promise of defending democracy, the United States entered the war. The entry of the United States into the war tipped the scales in favor of the Allies. It also marked the beginning of the end for the old European order. The war, once a European conflict, had become a truly global struggle, reshaping the balance of power forever. Section 5. Technological Horrors, New Tools of Destruction. World War I was a theatre of unprecedented carnage. It was a grim testament to the dark side of human ingenuity. New technologies designed for mass destruction emerged from the crucible of war. The machine gun, a relentless instrument of death, transformed battlefields into killing fields. Tanks, lumbering behemoths of steel, crawled across the scarred landscape, their presence a constant reminder of the war's industrialized nature. But it was the introduction of chemical warfare that truly shocked the world. Chlorine gas, first used by the Germans in 1915, unleashed a new kind of horror. Soldiers caught in the path of the deadly cloud, choked to death, their lungs seared by the invisible enemy. Mustard gas, even more insidious, caused agonizing blisters and internal burns. Chemical warfare, a violation of the rules of war, became a chilling symbol of the conflict's barbarity. The technological advancements of World War I came at a terrible human cost. They ushered in an era of unprecedented violence, forever changing the face of warfare. By 1918, after 4 long years of bloodshed, the guns finally fell silent. The war to end all wars had ended, but victory came at a staggering cost. Millions lay dead. Entire cities lay in ruins. The once fertile fields of Europe were scarred battlefields, littered with unexploded ordnance and haunted by the ghosts of war. The human cost of the war was immeasurable. Nearly 9 million soldiers perished on the battlefields. Millions more civilians succumbed to disease, starvation, and the war's other horrors. The world was left reeling, struggling to comprehend the scale of the tragedy. The war's economic toll was equally devastating. Industries lay in ruins. Farmlands were barren. Entire nations faced bankruptcy. The world was on the brink of a new era, but the future seemed bleak and uncertain. The Great War, as it came to be known, left an indelible mark on the world. It shattered empires, redrew maps, and left an... In the aftermath of the war, the victorious Allies gathered in Paris to determine the terms of peace. The Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919, was meant to ensure a lasting peace. Instead, it sowed the seeds of future conflict. Germany, blamed for the war's devastation, was forced to accept harsh reparations and territorial concessions. The treaty's punitive measures humiliated Germany and bred resentment among its people. This resentment would fester in the years to come, fueling the rise of extremism and ultimately contributing to the outbreak of World War II. The Treaty of Versailles, while attempting to redraw the map of Europe and ensure stability, ultimately failed to address the underlying causes of the war. The seeds of nationalism, imperialism, and militarism, left unchecked, would continue to plague the 20th century. The Treaty of Versailles, a product of its time, serves as a cautionary tale. It reminds us that true peace requires more than just the silencing of guns. It demands addressing the root causes of conflict and fostering a spirit of reconciliation and understanding. The Great War's impact extended far beyond the realm of politics and economics. It triggered profound social and cultural transformations that reverberated throughout the world. The war shattered traditional gender roles. With men away fighting, women took on new responsibilities, working in factories, running businesses, and caring for families. The horrors of war shattered the pre-war optimism and idealism. A sense of disillusionment pervaded art, literature, and music. The lost generation, as writer Gertrude Stein famously dubbed them, grappled with the war's psychological and emotional scars. The war also accelerated the pace of technological innovation. Advances in aviation, medicine, and communication, driven by the war effort, had a lasting impact on civilian life. World War I was a watershed moment in human history. It marked the end of an era and the beginning of a new, uncertain future. The world that emerged from the ashes of war was forever changed. A century after its outbreak, World War I continues to cast a long shadow over the world. It stands as a stark reminder of the human cost of conflict and the fragility of peace. The war's legacy is etched in the monuments and memorials that dot the landscape, silent sentinels to the millions who perished. The war's impact can be seen in the geopolitical landscape of the 21st century. The collapse of empires and the redrawing of borders continue to shape international relations. The rise of extremist ideologies fueled by the war's aftermath still poses a threat to global stability. World War I reminds us that peace is not a passive state but an ongoing process. It requires constant vigilance, dialogue, and a commitment to understanding and addressing the root causes of conflict. The lessons of World War I are as relevant today as they were a century ago. It is up to us, the inheritors of this complex legacy, to learn from the mistakes of the past and strive to create a more peaceful and just world.